Club Calvi has the latest installment in the best-selling children's books about the wild robot. The first was turned into a movie that was one of the biggest films of 2024. Now author Peter Brown has adapted the story into a new picture book. It's called The Wild Robot on the Island. And Peter Brown joins us now. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I mean, it's quite incredible what you have turned this into. And I wanted to go back when you first decided on The Wild Robot and how you drew inspiration for it.
Well, I had this idea about a robot in the last place you'd expect to find a robot, way out in the wilderness. And so to kind of get into the mood of that story, I spent a lot of time out in the woods. You know, I rented cabins out in the woods to kind of hear the sounds of the forest and just remind myself of what it's like to be in that kind of setting. And that really helped me get into the right mindset to flesh out this setting of the story and the character and the different things that happen.
Okay, so then you find out it's being made into a movie. I mean, what was your reaction to that?
It was pretty surreal. You know, at first I didn't actually believe it, and knowing a little bit about the movie business, I thought to myself, well, it's one thing for them to say they want to make the movie. It's another thing for this movie to actually get made and be released in theaters. But then when it actually got released in theaters, I was like, oh, wow, this is really happening. And so it was exciting. I got to meet some of my heroes like Mark Hamill and Catherine O'Hara, who did voices of the characters, and Lupita Nyong'o, who's the voice of Roz, and she did such an amazing job. Plus all the director, the producer, the animators are so incredibly talented. It was really fun to meet the whole team that was a part of making the film.
I can't even imagine when it comes up on screen. I mean, how did you feel?
The first time I watched it was in a theater at the Toronto International Film Festival, and I was surrounded by all of these people, movie stars who were voice actors in the film. And my wife was there, and my publishing family was there, you know. Everybody was there, and I got choked up for sure. When the title came up and the music started playing, I got a little teary-eyed.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So you grew up in New Jersey, and I'm wondering if anything in your childhood it drew you to the writing and the illustrating and I mean, the superstardom that you're dealing with today.
Well, I grew up in a pretty rural part of New Jersey, a town called Hopewell, which has a lot of farms and forests. You know, my friends and I would spend our days out in the woods building bike trails and climbing trees and stuff. And so certainly growing up in that environment made me kind of want to make stories that take place in that sort of environment. So I definitely think having grown up there has a lot to do with the types of stories that I tell.
Okay, so what comes first in your process? Is it the writing or is it the illustrating, since you do both?
Yeah, well, it depends on the book. For The Wild Robot, the first book I made in this whole series, it started with a drawing I made of a robot in a tree. Yeah, just something I made for fun in my sketchbook, and I couldn't stop thinking about this robot and why would a robot be in a tree or in the wilderness, you know? And from there, I started thinking more about what life would be like for a robot in the wilderness, and I began writing a little bit later. So in that case, it kind of started with a drawing, but every book is a little bit different.
But you develop your characters pretty intensely. I mean, it's not just the robot in the tree. I mean, we really become connected to your character.
It was really important to me that readers were kind of surprised with how much they care, not only about Roz, the wild robot, but about this whole story and this whole world that I was developing. And so I tried to find ways to make this story relatable. One of the things I did is I gave Roz, the robot, a family. She's out in the wilderness, she studies the animals and learns how to communicate with them, at which point she can make friends and even a family. She adopts an orphaned gosling who she names Bright Bill. And suddenly we're watching this sort of single mom raise her son, stumbling through the early days of parenthood. And I think parents reading this book with their kids obviously can relate to that. Kids are relating to both Bright Bill, the son, and they love Roz too. And so they're connecting with a parent, which doesn't often happen in children's books. And so I'm pretty happy with the way that all worked out.
All right, and tell me about this latest book.
So the new book is called The Wild Robot on the Island, which is an adaptation of the original novel, The Wild Robot. In The Wild Robot, I'm telling readers how Roz becomes the wild robot with words. There are some illustrations in the novel, but just they're kind of sprinkled throughout. The interior illustrations are black and white in the novel. I wanted to, in this case, show readers Roz becoming the wild robot with these big, colorful, detailed illustrations. And so I decided to do something a little unusual, which is adapt my own novel into a different format. And so I made this The Wild Robot on the Island. But it was really important to me to make this beautiful, to use color in really interesting ways. I wanted to kind of wow readers with this visual experience of watching Roz go through her kind of origin story.
Well, congratulations on all of your success. It's just such a pleasure to talk to you. Peter Brown, thank you so much for
Thanks
taking
for
some
having
time
me.
to talk to us.
This
We
has been fun.
appreciate it. And best with the new book. Again, it's called The Wild Robot on the Island. It's in bookstores now.